Booksy, welcome back to my channel. Today we're here for a quick Friday Reads video, and when I say quick, today I really mean quick. Even though sometimes I say quick and I ramble, today I only have a few minutes because my husband went to the store to pick up, well, he went to go get his pants from the cleaners. He went to get them hemmed, and when he comes back we have to leave for another errand. So I have about 10 minutes in which to film this entire video and do all the other things that I need to do before he comes back for me. So we're just going to talk about the books that I have finished in the last 7 days, I guess, since my last Friday Reads video. And then I'm going to show you a couple of books that I picked up. Ooh, that's thunder. I'm going to show you a couple of books that I picked up from the library today from my upcoming reading. So since my last Friday Reads video, I think I have finished 3 books. The first one was The Beginner's Guide to Winning an Election by Michael R. French. This is a young adult novel, but don't let that fool you. This is very political. The main character is a high school senior who's having some self-awareness issues. She has a history teacher that's very inspiring and motivational to her. And as she is reading or learning about historical events and the historical figures, I suppose, he's given them an assignment to think about where they want to be 10 years in the future and what kind of impact they want to make on the world. And so Britain is her full name, really, and she signs on to work on the campaign for the student body president. I think that's his title. And in joining this campaign, she uncovers some details about the whole process that she's very uncomfortable with, and so she decides to run for the office herself. And even though there is just one girl on the cover, the book has lots of characters and most of them are adults. So while this is young adult fiction and it is set in the future, it is about how younger and younger people are being called on to represent the country and what that means, whether these young people are being targeted by older people who want to use them for their contributions. I enjoyed some aspects of this. I didn't really feel like it was quite young adult enough. Like the dialogue and exchange between the characters felt a little bit like this author was writing it. So it didn't really feel like young adult to me, but I enjoyed the story nonetheless. That's the first book that I finished on, I think I finished it on Sunday. And then I've been reading this one since July. This is A Little History of the World by E.H. Gombrich. I'm sorry about the glare. It's about to rain, so the light is doing some weird things. I've been reading this one since July with my student. We were doing some discussions. He had to read this for his summer assignment, and so we've been going through the history of the world in little snippets. This book was written for children or youthful minds to awaken interest in history and connections between peoples. And I absolutely loved reading this book, where I could make critiques about the things that the author might have omitted. He addressed them himself in the final chapters of this book by explaining where he made mistakes just because of his background. Like he talks about growing up. This author was born in 1909 in Europe. I forget where he's from. I think he's from Vienna. He was born in Vienna in 1909, and with a Jewish background, he would have been one of those persecuted during the regime that led up to World War II. And he admits in his recounting of this that people didn't know as much about what was going on with the Hitler army as we know now. And now for him is in the 1980s when this book was finally published. So I recommended this book. I spoke about it. I did a full review in a My Closer Book video, which is going to be coming soon. But if you're looking for a book that you want to recommend to someone who's younger, who wants to know some things about history, then this is a good one to start with. My video.
Oh, okay. You get out of the way.
3 minutes and I'll be done. Are you gonna stand there?
You ever go upstairs?
Yes, please. I started reading this one in July, so I only had about half of the book to go in August, and I finished reading it, I think, around Tuesday or so. So that was my second book this week. And then I read Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott, which I have read before, but I reread it because of an assignment. Oh, that was my package from Walmart. I ordered some stuff for the camping trip that I can't show you yet. So yeah, I finished reading Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott. I'd read this one before because I've owned this copy for about a year, And it's one of the books that everyone says that you should read if you're a writer, because she speaks about the highs and lows of writing, the challenges but also the rewards. And the title, Bird by Bird, I mean, for a long time I used to hear about this book and not know what it meant. And if you're interested, I'll just tell you right now, if you haven't read this book, Bird by Bird is just a story that she relates from her own childhood, where her brother had an assignment that he had to do. He had to, sounds like he had a summer assignment, which is funny because I'm reading this book to help one of my students who has a summer assignment. But her brother had an assignment to, I think, catalog birds, and he had all summer to do it, and he neglected to do anything during the summer. And the night before, or the day before the assignment was due, he sat down really frustrated with all the work that he had to do, all the birds that he would have to identify and probably draw and so on. And the father, coming over, tried to encourage him and said, don't worry about the big task, just tackle it bird by bird. And in this book, she talks about tackling the big projects, big writing projects, but projects in general. Whatever it is that you have to do that is going to take a long time, just take it step by step. And she relates that to the writing process, not needing to know where you're going to end up, but just chronicling your thoughts, putting your thoughts down on paper or on a computer, line by line, word by word, bird by bird. And so I read this one. It's only about 200 pages, but it's a really easy read. So I finished this in a day, just commuting back and forth from Manhattan. And so these are the 3 books that I finished this week and can put behind me. I'm still reading A House for Mr Biswas by V.S. Naipaul, doing a buddy read of this one with Dee Dee from Brown Girl Reading. And both of us have been having other things happening in our lives, so we're a little bit behind our reading schedule and our check-in schedule, but we're both so much enjoying this story. Naipaul grew up in the Caribbean, and I think Dee Dee said she had heard that this book is about his father's childhood. Naipaul himself has an Indian background, and the main character in this one, Mr Biswas, he is living almost an Indian experience in Trinidad, and his family is Hindu, and the interactions that he's having with other people, the wife that he marries and the family that he inherits, both his own family and his wife's family, they are pretty much traditionally Hindu, and the rituals that they go through. But because they're in a predominantly Christian society now living in the West Indies, they've made some adjustments, they've made some compromises, they've allowed Roman Catholics to teach their children. And he's making very satirical and critical comparisons through the eyes of this main character, and it is just so well written. It's very detailed. The book again is very long, it's over 600 pages, but it feels so engaging to read this story, and I'm so immersed in it. I'm loving it. So I'm not really in a hurry to finish this book. I just want to savor the experience. I don't mind that it's taking a little bit longer than we had originally planned, because this is a really good read. And then the next 2 books that I'm going to be reading in the upcoming days, I picked up from the library today. So this is a little mini library haul in one. Fever Dream by Samantha Schweblin and Love in the New Millennium by Kanshu, I think. Both of these authors were nominated for the Man Booker International Prize this year. Samantha Schweblin, Fever Dream, is her book that was published, I think last year or the year before. It was published in 2017. Her more current release is A Mouthful of Birds. It's a short story collection that was nominated for the Booker Prize last year, Booker International. But I heard Eric Carl Anderson rave about this book last year or so, and I'd wanted to read it then. And so when the author was nominated again for another book, I felt like right now, Women in Translation Month, would be a good time to try out her book, and I had no idea it was this small. But I decided to go with the novel as opposed to the short story collection that was nominated, because I feel like in the past I've had better experience with the novels than with the short story collections of new authors. Case in point, Shoba Rao. I read Girls Burn Brighter and loved it, and then I read her short story collection An Unrestored Woman, which had been published I guess 2 or so years before. And it was great, but it wasn't as great as the novel. Next example would be Americana and The Thing Around Your Neck by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I love the stories in Thing Around Your Neck, but I felt like they left me wanting in a way that Americana gave me a longer time to hang out with the characters and find that I hated them in a lot of ways. But I just so much preferred the experience of reading the long novel Americana by Adichie. So I decided to go with Schweblin's Fever Dream. This is her novel. And then Kan Shu is Love in the New Millennium. This one is, I think it is collections. I think these are connected stories as well. I don't recall. I don't remember. The synopsis is all covered up, but this one is translated from Chinese. This one is translated from Spanish, Argentinian writer, Chinese writer. And I requested both of these because of Women in Translation Month. So these are the two books I picked up from the library today. I'm hoping to get to these sometime in the rest of the month. So I'm adding these to my TBR. I'm still in the quest to read 31 books in 31 days. So let's see how many more of these I can knock out in the next 7 days. So these are the 3 books that I finished this week, the book that I'm currently reading, and 2 books that I am looking forward to getting to very soon for Women in Translation Month. I don't know if I'm going to post an official WIT TBR video as the readathon comes up, but we'll see. So give me a thumbs up if you like this video, subscribe if you want to see more, and let's talk in the comments. Let me know what book you finished this week that you most enjoyed, or the book that you're currently reading that you are savoring. Of course, for me, it's this one. So let's talk in the comments, and until next time, happy reading. Bye.